What if I told you that there's one emotion so powerful it can literally make your enemies retreat and flee in terror? Most people think gratitude is just being polite or saying thank you. But what if true gratitude is actually the most devastating weapon against those who try to destroy you? Right now, millions of people are facing overwhelming opposition, bullies, corrupt systems, powerful enemies who seem unstoppable, and they're fighting back with anger, fear, or desperation. But 3,000 years ago, King David discovered that the most unexpected emotion could turn the tide of any battle and bring down the mightiest opponents. Today, you're about to learn not just sophisticated English expressions for victory and defeat, but you're going to discover why authentic praise and gratitude create an unstoppable force that transforms impossible situations. This isn't just vocabulary building, this is spiritual warfare in English. And by the end, you'll understand why your enemies should fear your thanksgiving more than your anger. David opens Psalm 9 with one of the most comprehensive declarations of gratitude ever recorded. I will praise you, Lord, with all my heart. I will tell of all the marvelous things you have done. The phrase "with all my heart" indicates complete emotional investment, not half-hearted or obligatory thanks, but whole-person gratitude. When we do something with all our heart, we give it our complete attention, energy, and passion. The promise "I will tell" suggests ongoing, active communication. David won't keep his gratitude private, but will share it publicly. The word marvelous describes things that inspire wonder and amazement. When something is marvelous, it's extraordinary and almost unbelievable in its goodness. The phrase "all the marvelous things" indicates that David has experienced multiple incredible interventions. This isn't about one lucky break, but a pattern of divine goodness. David's emotional response intensifies. I will be filled with joy because of you. I will sing praises to your name, O Most High. The phrase "filled with joy" suggests complete saturation with happiness, not just feeling good, but being completely permeated with delight. When something is filled, there's no empty space left. David's joy isn't circumstantial but relational. It's because of you, meaning God Himself is the source of this overwhelming happiness. The promise to sing praises indicates public, celebratory worship. In English, singing implies not just making music but expressing joy so intense it can't be contained in normal speech. The title Most High emphasizes God's supreme position above all other authorities and powers. Now David reveals what happened to his enemies. My enemies retreated. They staggered and died when you appeared. The word retreated means to withdraw from battle, usually in defeat or fear. When armies retreat, they're acknowledging they cannot win and must flee to survive. The word staggered describes unsteady, stumbling movement, like someone who's been hit so hard they can barely stay upright. The phrase "when you appeared" suggests that God's mere presence was enough to defeat David's opponents. They didn't need to fight a long battle. God's appearance instantly reversed the situation. This teaches us that sometimes our greatest victories come not from our own fighting, but from God's intervention on our behalf. David explains the legal basis for his victory. For you have judged in my favor. From your throne you have judged with fairness. The phrase "judged in my favor" uses courtroom language. God has rendered an official verdict that supports David's position. When a judge rules in your favor, you've won the legal case and your position has been vindicated. The image of God's throne emphasizes divine authority and official capacity. Kings and judges make binding decisions from their thrones. These aren't suggestions, but authoritative rulings that must be obeyed. The word fairness means justice and impartiality. God's judgment isn't based on favoritism or corruption, but on absolute moral truth. The scope of divine judgment expands. You have rebuked the nations and destroyed the wicked. You have erased their names forever. The word rebuked means to criticize severely or express sharp disapproval. When someone is rebuked, they're not just corrected but officially censured for wrongdoing. The phrase destroyed the wicked indicates complete elimination of evil people, not just defeat but total removal. The powerful image of erasing their names forever suggests complete obliteration from history and memory. In ancient cultures, having your name remembered was crucial for legacy and significance. When names are erased, it's as if these people never existed. David describes total military victory. The enemy is finished in endless ruins. The cities you uprooted are now forgotten. The phrase "the enemy is finished" indicates complete defeat, not just temporary setback, but permanent elimination. When something is finished, it's completely done and cannot continue. The description "endless ruins" paints a picture of complete destruction that will never be rebuilt. When buildings become ruins, they're reduced to broken fragments of their former glory. The word "endless" suggests permanent devastation. The phrase "cities you uprooted" uses agricultural language. Cities were torn out like plants pulled from the ground, leaving nothing behind. When something is forgotten, it passes completely out of memory and recognition. David contrasts this temporary destruction with eternal stability, but the Lord reigns forever, executing judgment from his throne. The word "but" creates a sharp contrast between the fate of the wicked and God's eternal nature. The phrase "reigns forever" emphasizes permanence while earthly powers rise and fall. God's authority is eternal and unchanging. The word "executing" means carrying out or implementing. God doesn't just make judgments but ensures they're enforced. When someone executes a decision, they take action to make it reality. The global scope of divine justice emerges. He will judge the world with justice and rule the nations with fairness. The phrase "the world" indicates universal scope, not just one country or people group, but all humanity. The word "justice" refers to perfect moral judgment based on absolute truth and righteousness. When someone acts with justice, they give everyone exactly what they deserve based on their actions. The promise to rule the nations suggests active governance. God doesn't just judge from a distance, but actively manages international affairs. David reveals God's special care for the vulnerable. The Lord is a shelter for the oppressed, a refuge in times of trouble. The word "shelter" suggests protection from storms and danger, like a building that keeps you safe from harsh weather. When someone provides shelter, they offer safety and security to those who cannot protect themselves. The word "oppressed" refers to people who are mistreated by those with more power, victims of injustice, abuse, or systemic cruelty. A refuge is a safe place where you can escape from danger, like a sanctuary where hunters cannot pursue their prey. The phrase "times of trouble" acknowledges that everyone faces difficult periods when they need divine protection. David makes a profound statement about trust. Those who know your name trust in you. For you, O Lord, do not abandon those who search for you. The phrase "know your name" goes beyond just knowing information. In Hebrew culture, knowing someone's name meant understanding their character and having a relationship with them. The word "trust" means to rely on completely, like leaning your full weight on a strong foundation. The promise that God does not abandon his seekers uses powerful relational language. When someone abandons you, they leave you alone when you need them most. David is promising that God never does this to people who genuinely seek him. David calls for public celebration. Sing praises to the Lord who reigns in Jerusalem. Tell the world about his unforgettable deeds. The command to sing praises indicates joyful public worship that can't be contained privately. The phrase "reigns in Jerusalem" identifies God's earthly headquarters and center of worship. The instruction to tell the world suggests international evangelism, sharing good news beyond your own community. The word unforgettable describes actions so remarkable they cannot be erased from memory. When something is unforgettable, it makes such a powerful impression that it stays with you forever. David reveals God's character as defender of the innocent. For he who avenges murder cares for the helpless. He does not ignore the cries of those who suffer. The phrase avenges murder shows God's commitment to justice for the most serious crimes. When someone avenges a wrong, they ensure appropriate punishment and justice. The word helpless describes people who cannot defend themselves, children, the disabled, the poor, or anyone without power or resources. The promise that God does not ignore their cries means He pays attention and responds to their appeals for help. When someone ignores you, they pretend not to hear or see your need. Despite his confidence, David acknowledges his current vulnerability. Lord, have mercy on me. See how my enemies torment me. Snatch me back from the jaws of death. The plea for mercy acknowledges that David doesn't deserve rescue based on his own goodness, but appeals to God's compassion. The word torment describes ongoing, deliberate cruelty designed to cause maximum suffering. When someone torments you, they don't just hurt you once, but create sustained, intentional pain. The dramatic phrase, jaws of death, presents death as a wild animal about to devour its prey. When something is in the jaws of a predator, it's about to be destroyed completely. David explains his motivation for seeking rescue. Save me so I can praise you publicly at Jerusalem's gates, so I can rejoice that you have rescued me. This isn't selfish pleading, but purposeful request. David wants to be saved so he can worship God publicly. The phrase Jerusalem's gates refers to the busiest, most public part of the city where everyone would see and hear his gratitude. David wants his testimony to be as public as possible, inspiring others and bringing glory to God. David describes the principle of cosmic justice. The nations have fallen into the pit they dug for others. Their own feet have been caught in the trap they set. This verse illustrates perfect poetic justice. Evil people become victims of their own schemes. When you dig a pit for someone else, you create a trap designed to harm them. The irony is that the trap creators fall into their own devices. This teaches us that there's a moral law of cause and effect operating in the universe. Divine justice becomes visible through natural consequences. The Lord is known for His justice. The wicked are trapped by their own deeds. The phrase known for indicates reputation and recognition. God's character becomes visible through His actions. When someone is trapped by their own deeds, their evil actions create consequences that imprison them. This shows that God's justice often works through natural consequences rather than supernatural intervention. David warns of ultimate judgment. The wicked will go down to the grave. This is the fate of all the nations who ignore God. The phrase "go down to the grave" refers to death and final judgment. The word fate suggests inevitable destiny. This isn't just a possibility, but a certain outcome. When nations ignore God, they treat Him as irrelevant or non-existent, dismissing His authority and moral standards. But David offers hope for the vulnerable. But the needy will not be ignored forever. The hopes of the poor will not always be crushed. The word "but" creates contrast between the fate of the wicked and the destiny of the oppressed. The promise that the needy won't be ignored forever assures eventual divine intervention. When someone's hopes are crushed, their dreams are destroyed, and their spirits broken, David promises this crushing won't be permanent. David concludes with a call for divine intervention. Arise, O Lord. Do not let mere mortals defy you. Judge the nations. Make them tremble in fear, O Lord. Let the nations know they are merely human. The command "arise" calls God to active intervention. The phrase "mere mortals" emphasizes human limitations in contrast to divine power. When people defy God, they openly resist and challenge His authority. The call to make nations tremble in fear requests that they experience appropriate awe and respect for divine power. The final reminder that they are merely human puts earthly powers in proper perspective. No matter how mighty they seem, they're finite creatures subject to infinite divine authority. This is the secret I mentioned at the beginning. When we respond to opposition with authentic gratitude and praise rather than fear or anger, we invoke divine power that no earthly force can resist. Our thanksgiving becomes a weapon that our enemies cannot withstand, because it calls God Himself into the battle on our behalf.